Hey team, how are you? So today I want to kind of put some contemplation, some thoughts together on the idea of great leadership. For me, great leadership is really about the thought space, about holding thought and having consistency of thought, because thought is where you're able to basically get transcendence and enlightenment, because in the thought there is property, and the property delivers a level of presence, a level of power. So that property is defined by how good your thoughts are, how good your thinking is, how good you are in terms of your clarity of signal from yourself and source. So what does this all mean, and how does it all relate to leadership? Look, when we do something, when we take action, it's preceded by thought. The thought comes first and then the action. And thought in its purest form, I believe, is at the higher dimension. So if you have clear thought, clear thinking, what I call purity of thought, then you are pure conductivity to be able to receive the higher power signal, what is wisdom and enlightenment, but be instinctual in that, in being able to action that decisively in terms of delivering it through intuition, being instinctual and actioning in real time, in the here and now, but the right decisions, the most powerful decisions, the most enlightened decisions, taking action, but powerful right action all the time. That's what leadership is about decisive real-time action that is the right action at the right time. And so in order to be able to do that, you really have to have clear thinking. You have got to be resolutely pure and single-minded in your thoughts, in your thinking. And so is the consistency of thought and your rituals and practices that develop that consistency and purity of thought that is going to deliver right action for you. And you've really got to understand this, because we have two levels of power and action. One is without awareness, where we're just existing and living day to day, no different to an animal, meaning we're just an organism like another animal is, and we're no different. Or at level 2, we have awareness. So at that level, we are above, we are different to the animal instinct, the animal, the basic organism. And our thoughts are kind of almost, we stand back and we take a wider perspective on our situation and act on that perspective within the situation. We're more aware, and it's about awareness. So that level of thinking is different. And so when we're instinctual in our thinking, then we're at that level 2, but we're acting decisively in real time as if we're in level 1. So we're animalistic, meaning we're instinctual, we're using our intuition. There's no difference between thought and action. It's in the same space, right? But it's at a higher level. So it's real powerful action. And so we have to develop thought as a practice to be able to execute in that way. And so it's the development of thought through ritual. The ritual of what I do and what I'm recommending is the ritual of prayer. And certainly the way I've been taught is through the Muslim prayer. But, I don't think the idea of prayer is limited to a particular doctrine, although I have found the way I pray through Islam to be very powerful and effective. I don't say that prayer is limited to a particular doctrine, because you have to understand what the definition of prayer is. So the definition of prayer, according to myself, how I've reflected over it, is that prayer is your awareness in thought, at the level of thought, of the higher power. And in that awareness, you're connecting to the higher power by talking, by communicating in your thoughts. So the question I ask a lot of people is, where is the higher power? And the answer has to be that Allah, God, the universe, nature, infinite intelligence, source, evolution, whatever you want to call it, is everywhere. The higher power, by its very existence, is everywhere. So if it's everywhere, is the higher power within or in between the space between your thoughts? Is the higher power also residing in your thoughts? The answer is yes. If it's everywhere, it's also in your thoughts. That means you can connect to the higher power within your thoughts. So that is what prayer is. Connection means talking to. It can be loud talking, or it can be talking through your thoughts to that awareness of the higher power. And what happens is, that's what I call prayer. And if you do it in a structured way, in a consistent way, as a pattern, as a routine, then you can use the prayer as a platform through which to kind of take off, to lift off into a ritual that allows you to then focus and concentrate on just the thought space and allow you to evolve and develop that. So the question is, how do you evolve and develop your thought space? And the answer is through contextual awareness, through the practice of gaining perspective. So you have to reflect and talk to yourself and ask questions. Why do I exist? Where do I exist? Am I here by chance? Is this a random event, my existence? And you're answering these questions. And when you look and reflect, really the contextual awareness is a process, what is a 7-stage sequential process, where you recognize your existence, you become aware of the fact that you're alive and that you're going to die. That life is transitory. I don't mean it in a morbid way that you're going to die, but in the sense that life is transitory and that there is an exit, meaning death is the exit out of life. And so, stage 1 is gaining an awareness of the fact that you do exist. Stage 2 is basically recognizing that if, you exist and there's an exit, there's a journey, there's a purpose in between before you leave. And the question is, what's your purpose? And then you recognize at the level 3 that, you've been created by a higher power. Purpose has to come from outside yourself. And so, something bigger, something greater has created you. So you believe in a higher existence, a higher power than yourself. And so stage 4 is trying to understand and recognize that higher power. And as you recognize that higher power, you understand your insignificance in relation to the higher power, meaning that it's all-knowing, all-wise, almighty, the creator, the sustainer, merciful, and many other attributes. But when you reflect over those attributes, you recognize your insignificance in relation to those attributes. And the more you think and the more aware you become of those attributes, the smaller and smaller, the less significant you become, to the point where you kind of almost become so present to that awareness that you lose yourself, your identity, to that awareness. and you become nothing, zeroed out. What you call, you relinquish your identity, you submit to the will of the creator, meaning you recognize in the presence of the creator to such a degree that you now are negated, you're zeroed out, and it's whatever the will of the higher power is, that is the feeling, because you're now the noise that's been cancelled, and you're able to receive because you're now pure in your thought. So those stages have negated you. Now you're pure in your thought, and you're allowing the feeling, the intuition. You're basically a portal for the higher power to come through. And as you feel that higher power's energy through intuition, so intuition is the God particle between yourself and God. As you feel that intuition, then you act on that feeling. And that's how you become instinctual, because you zeroed yourself out. You're nothing now. You're negated, right? So there's purity in your ability to receive information. And so that information is a feeling from your intuition. So your intuition is that measurement tool of receiving, feeling from the higher power. And so you're going with your intuition, which is called instinctiveness. You're going with your instincts, but because you're pure, or you're negated out of the situation, it's not really your instincts, it's what you're feeling when you've zeroed yourself out. So you see that as being direct kind of navigation from source, the energy from source, and then you're translating or transmuting or executing that that instinctiveness, that intuition into action, and then that's right action. And that's how you get great leadership, where you're out of the equation, you're zeroed out, your ego's not in the way, and your pure conductivity. And so then you're able to take the right actions, and that's what I call wisdom, enlightenment, leadership, real-time living, and what some people would call present to the moment, being present in a present state, being in a state of flow. And that flow is that ability to take action in real time as you feel what you need to do through your intuition, which is connected to the higher power. And it's because you are able to pick up the signal of the intuition so clearly, because you've negated yourself out of the way, you've zeroed yourself out of the way, you are the noise in the way. So the ritual of prayer is a process of thinking that sequentially you concentrate through to zero yourself out, allow the higher power to be able to work through you, because now you're pure conductivity, and then you're able to execute that as action. So leadership is about great thinking, clarity of thinking, thought, which is preceded by the exercise of making your thoughts clear and pure and great thinking. And so there's a practice for that. So in Islam, we have the 5 daily prayers, and the idea is that the first prayer is pre-dawn, just before the rise of Mother Earth, and so the second one is after high noon. Then there's a third one at the latter part of the afternoon, then at sunset, and then late evening. So you're basically sequencing throughout the day access points where you go back in as a ritual to reposition, refocus, recenter, recalibrate, and get to that pure conductivity where you zero yourself out. So you're trying throughout the day to maintain, you're gonna be like this in the morning, you're gonna be off center in the morning, you wake up pre-dawn before Mother Earth, so you're getting ahead of Mother Earth. You focus yourself, and then what happens is you're gonna veer off center once you focus as you go through the day, and then you go back in at the next level, at the next timing, to recenter yourself, refocus yourself, recalibrate yourself. And then again, what's going to happen is you're going to go off center and then you go back in. So that's the idea of having 5 daily prayers throughout the day, that when you recognize that you are imbalanced by default as a human being, you're imbalanced in you're skewed in your thinking, and your thinking is about pure conductivity, then the whole focus of the human being is to try and maintain that pure conductivity, to allow them to be able to express themselves fully, allow themselves to be the vehicle through which the higher power is expressing itself in terms of physical action of the human being. So I think that is pretty good for today, in terms of what I wanted to just reflect over, talk about. And I think that's what the world is missing right now. The world is basically missing this idea of having a centered mind, having level thinking, level-headed thinking, where everybody's grounded, and so there is good solid communication between all human beings, and there is good interaction. We don't focus on this thought space. We don't focus on centering ourselves. We just get up in the morning, get a coffee, grab some breakfast, and run out of the house. And that is so unfortunate, because you're missing out so much in terms of getting into a good state, and then allowing that state to be you and executing through that state. That state is the fountainhead through which you are operating, because your thoughts are action. So action is preceded by thoughts. So when you have great thoughts, in your role as a mother or a father, in your role as a worker, in your role as a leader, a manager, a CEO, a politician, a doctor, a street cleaner, in your role as a human being, in whatever delivery mechanism you have for that, you are aligned and you're delivering good action. So there's positive action and arguably peace on earth, or at least peace in your immediate environment, because you're not disturbing the peace, you're reinforcing and strengthening the peace around you with right action. And so the question really is, what is right action? And I'm saying basically the right action is the action where you're centered, you're grounded, and your noise of yourself is out of the way, and so you have clear thinking, you have purity of thinking, and you do purity of action that way. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Bye now. Thank you. Hey guys, it's raining today, so I'm just having a quick jog, trying to fulfill my requirements. Pretty sad, really, pretty bad, but I'm just trying to fulfill my responsibility to maintain the 30-day challenge. But also, like I've mentioned before, that it's actually good because it's de-stressing. The idea is that it's the lack of action that causes the stress, and so if you take action, no matter how small it is, if you try and take action, then that will take away the edge of the stress. And so that's what I've basically discovered. And so everybody should, if they say they're going to do something, at least put one small step of action towards it. All right, guys.